Welcome to the top 15 smartphones of 2019, as well as 5 phones you might be tempted to buy, but that you probably shouldn't. And that's what we're going to start with. So first things first, the Huawei P30. And don't get me wrong, this is a phone I really like, but it loses quite a few of the P30 Pro's headline features. And that doesn't make it a bad phone, but it does mean that, for not much more money, the Mate 20 Pro from last year is a better deal. It is just as powerful, but has a bigger battery, it charges faster, this thing's got a higher resolution screen, and more secure 3D face unlocking. Sony's new Xperia 1 is a phone I really wanted to like, because it's just kinda cool with this ultra-wide cinema-style display. But after 10 minutes with it, I can already say that for most content, that screen space is just not being used very efficiently. The battery life as well is just not in line with a 6.5-inch 4K display. It's gonna die fast. You've then got the LG G8 ThinQ, and I just think the company's missed the mark on this one. Its headline features are pretty gimmicky, and whilst it is an all-round solidly spec'd phone, you can do better for the money, as you're about to see. We've got the BlackBerry Key 2 over here, and there is a market for this phone, it's just very niche. They've built a device that runs on Android, but with a screen that's too small and too short to take advantage of it. Not to mention, the main selling point here is this physical keyboard, which will appeal to a very specific kind of consumer, but the vast majority now would benefit more from the conveniences of an adaptable virtual keyboard. And finally, the last phone that you might be tempted to buy but that you should probably avoid is the Galaxy Note 9. Don't get me wrong, I loved the Note 9 and it was a great phone when it released, but right now, unless you need that S Pen, the Galaxy S10 Plus improves in so many ways that it's tough to recommend its slower, bulkier cousin. And if you did want a cheaper Samsung alternative, then the Galaxy S9 Plus right now is cheaper and inherently much better value. Alright, now for the top 15, and I have arranged them in a rough order, but any phone in this list is going to be one I can safely recommend. So, to start with, in 15th place, the Nokia 9 PureView. This right here is a flawed phone. It's using a last generation chipset, its camera takes ages to process shots, we've got these chunky bezels around the display, and yet, it is the phone I find myself reaching for when taking a lot of landscape shots. Its penta camera setup is intriguing, and I'd be using it because I was almost excited by how the end image could turn out. Plus, so far at least, it's been getting pretty regular software updates, and my experience has improved over time. Number 14 is the iPhone XR, which still, to date, has a very impressive camera, and it is a powerful phone for people who can't quite spring for the iPhone XS. But, as with every Apple product, even over half a year after its launch, you'll still be paying pretty much full price for it. It's just become hard to justify spending over $700 on a phone with a screen like this, when alternatives are better than ever. I was super impressed by the Honor View 20. It looks distinguished, it's got a powerful chip, it's got a 48 megapixel camera, and price-wise it comes in a fair bit below most flagships. The only real downside is that the company has opted for a time-of-flight camera on the back, which is not a bad thing, but they've used it instead of what I would say are the more useful telephoto or ultra-wide lenses. The iPhone XS is still an impressive phone, and has aged a little better than the XR because of its slimmer bezels and higher quality display. It's also just straight up one of the fastest phones out there. You can feel quite confident when you play a game on this that it's going to run flawlessly. We've then got the iPhone XS Max, and I would honestly say if you can cope with the larger dimensions here, this is the better buy. The larger screen is better for films and TV, and the phone also lasts 10 to 15% longer on a charge. That little bit extra makes a massive difference. Alright, number 10, and I don't think it's the prettiest phone, but there's also definitely room in the market for the Google Pixel 3 XL, for 2 main reasons. Number 1 is the cameras. On both the front and the back, you're getting some of the most powerful camera software ever, which lets you do things that a few years ago would have been considered black magic. The other is Google's software. Once you use it, it's tough to wean yourself off the slick animations and the simple aesthetic. Alright, it was a beast in 2018, and it's still a beast in 2019. This is the Pocophone F1. It's a budget phone with shockingly little compromise, although it's not quite as cutting edge as it was when it originally launched. OnePlus 6T is a blissfully slick experience for half the price of a top-end phone. The software is clean and bloat-free, and so your whole experience just feels light. I would say though, whilst you'll struggle to get it on the official website, if you can get hold of the older OnePlus 6 for less, that might be a better buy, because essentially same chip, same performance, but it's slimmer and lighter. The Huawei Mate 20 Pro, although it was released last year, is very much one of the company's current gen phones. All you need to do is to take one look at the phone spec sheet and you can see that it's still very much ahead of the curve, especially in terms of battery and charging speed. Also, the camera is a whole lot of fun to use here. Then we've got the Redmi Note 7 Pro, a budget phone, and you can tell it's not a flagship, but also there is very little to complain about. It's using the brand new Snapdragon 675 chip for very much upper mid-range performance, has a weighty 4000 mAh battery, and of course a 48 megapixel camera. It's really rather good. Alright, we're in the top 5, things are getting serious, and in 5th place we've actually got two joint phones. That's the Galaxy S10 and the Galaxy S10e. They're both amazing, but at the same time both for quite different consumers. The S10 is a little larger, it's targeted as a more premium offering, with more cameras, a curved display, and a bigger battery, but then the S10e is sold as the more practical variant. I like how it still has the stereo speakers and the display quality of its higher-end cousins, and that they've made sensible compromises, like switching the ultrasonic in-display fingerprint scanner to the still very fast side-mounted one. The Xiaomi Mi 9 is basically the cheapest full-scale 2019 flagship you can buy right now, and aside from a slightly underwhelming battery, it blew me away. For just under $500, you're looking at a Snapdragon 855 chip and a really good triple camera system. Xiaomi also added in fast charging and some of the fastest wireless charging we've ever seen. In 3rd place, we've got the Huawei P30 Pro. And this is a phone that truly excels in 3 key areas. You've got the camera zoom, you've got the camera at night, and you've got battery and charging. And by excel, I honestly mean it is so good it will constantly surprise you. At the same time though, it does have a couple of areas like its display and its speaker quality that are very forgettable. Galaxy S10 Plus, which takes a different approach. It's a slightly more well-rounded phone, and no, it doesn't have a camera that can practically see in the dark, or one that you can use to remotely keep up with what your neighbours are up to, but it shoots consistently good photos in all lighting conditions. It's got a really good battery life, it's got natural-sounding dual speakers, and one of the best quality displays you've ever seen. That leaves us with number 1, and in my opinion this is a thoroughly underrated device, and it's the one that my SIM card is in right now. This is the Galaxy S10 5G. I think a big part of the problem is that the company literally named it as if it was just the S10 with a 5G modem stuck on. But a better way to describe it would honestly be the S10 Ultimate. It's got an even larger battery, larger, brighter display, and its quad camera setup can do a fair bit more. Depending on where you live, you probably won't be able to take advantage of that 5G functionality, but I'd argue that those other improvements alone are enough to justify the extra $200 it costs. Worth bearing in mind is that there should be a few other exciting phones coming up in May. You've got potentially 3 smartphones from OnePlus, you've got some exciting things from Honor, as well as Google's budget-friendly Pixel 3a devices. There's also the foldable phones from Samsung and Huawei. But as exciting as they are, they're a bit of a risky buy right now, being literally the first devices in a completely new category. They are not only more likely to go wrong, as we've kind of seen, but also it's going to take time for developers to be able to fully take advantage of this fold, to be able to do more than just your normal size phone can. Alright guys, if you enjoyed the video, it'd be massively appreciated if you could subscribe to the channel. My name is Aaron, this is Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'll catch you in the next one.